Like, have any of y'all ever felt that feeling? Just, I guess, just through life, growing up, of just like, I don't know, like, just like you were made for more type thing. Because I just
Can't
had
just
that
be no
feeling.
regular nigga, bruh.
Depends how far you want to go. It depends who you want to be, right? At my stage, after having like been out of school for, or been out of undergrad for like, 6, 7 years now, the shit is not sweet, bro. Like you realize that what you thought six figures might be is actually probably what millionaire status is, right? And what you thought like millionaire meant in terms of financial freedom, nah, that's billionaire, bro. And all the billionaires are looking at being trillionaires. So if you don't like the system, then you got to beat them to a quadrillion if you really want to change the shit. And that's heavy. But it's real. Like I think if I was to be here and make predictions, like it's basically like none of that shit even matters. Like it's gonna be an infinite money glitch situation. Like whether it's with the crypto or just AI, all that other stuff. Like it's like haves, haves not. It's getting worse. Things that look like middle class right now, some of that shit is gonna slide into poverty. Um, and so it's a world that looks nothing like what our parents encountered in a lot of substantial ways. And then like for me, it's about positioning myself to say, okay, how do I take what I can from them, appreciate them, but also like, no, look those shortcomings right in the face and be like, you could have went harder. You chose not to. It was maybe more difficult for you because you didn't have access, right? Because you didn't have the internet, maybe you didn't go to whatever schools, but it's like, no, 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 this shit is not sweet. Like if you really want the shit, like, and that's if you really want it, right? Because like, there's things out there to say like, some people are meant to be bystanders and meant to watch the show, right? But once you realize that you have that spark, right? You say God put that in your chest or whatever, and like you're supposed to be there. First of all, like you're probably not the first one in your family to have that. You look around, there's other people that probably got the spark and didn't do it and have like managed to make good lives and have families and kids that they love, pick a house, pick a fence, all that shit, right? But if you look closely, and that's the thing, you don't have to look closely. But if you look closely, you're gonna see a lot of like, bro, why are these niggas bald and overweight, bro? It's because they've been eating their sorrows for decades. And it's like, damn. And it's like, oh, but I could turn it off, right? I could pretend I don't see it and like, yeah, I'll kind of end up, like everybody else in my family, big happy family all together. But then like if you take the other path, it's like, no, I'm gonna put them on my back. It's like, okay, you put them on your back, but like, does that mean are you planning on putting them down at some point? Or do you really know where the quote unquote finish line is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it is, but it's tough, right? Because there's so many other things in life, right? It's not all about the material. And I think the people who have like the most material success, like, well, not the most, but like there are people who choose balance and there are those who don't. And I'm favorable of a more balanced perspective, but to the extent that it actually takes you to the limits. Like you want to talk about justice, right? Like, and then I know there's a lot of Haitians in here. It's like there's people who went from the sugarcane fields as far as they could towards like making that shit into a fucking empire, bro. Like that's not just bringing my family to the next level. That's a whole different paradigm, but it's not for everybody. And it is difficult. Um, but it's also like comes with a lot of ease, and a lot of benefits and a lot of pleasure. Just not at first.
Damn, that's so interesting. Like the Haitian Revolution in general, and the fact that the majority of the people in here are Haitian niggas, and just like parallels would be very interesting, especially if this turns into like a pit pop mafia. I'd be dead as fuck. That'd be great.
Because the equivalent is like if you really want to look at it, like no, all those managers who are looking at you like, yeah, 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 take your 250 a year. Yeah, 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 take your stock options. You can be a millionaire. Like, no, those are modern day slave masters. Right. So you can decide, like, because there were definitely people in the Haitian Revolution. Everybody wants to be like, oh, my ancestors was all in this shit, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't fucking know. Uh, but if that resonates with you as an individual and you want to pick that up, then like that's a whole different thing. And don't get me wrong, like, faith is crucial for that. But you can also use faith to kind of anesthetize a lot of that too and be like, no, it's okay. Look around me, my congregation, my family, like I'm keeping up, it seems all right. But if you really want to shoot for something greater, like that's what calls to me. And I think it calls to a lot of people. And somewhere in their 20s, I think like this is like as I'm about to turn 29 in May. And like as I'm realizing like what are the lessons of the 20s, it's like this shit is here to make people put down their dreams. So there's enough room for people who won't put them down to actually have them. Like it's literally like they're putting it to the side. And once they quit, then the money is available for me to have it because I didn't. Not that it's a zero-sum game, but like it kind of feels like that a little bit.
Right, because you can't, like, if everybody can't be an entrepreneur, like everybody can't be a boss, like they're damn.
But that said, more and more younger and younger people are doing it though. So, because now it's like, okay, though there are billionaires under 30, more and more. And like, and it's not just like people who inherited it all, although the people who are doing it probably inherited something else, even if it's not the money, right? Maybe it's a work ethic, it's a worldview, whatever, right? But they made it happen and people are making it happen younger. Yo, there's going to be a teenage billionaire one day. There
Yeah.
is.
Like, what are you guys oriented towards? And a proxy for that is, who do you admire, I guess? And yeah, or like, who have been your heroes? And then I don't know if I'm anticipating your answer, I guess like this is me just assuming. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to go last because Reggie, I feel like your answer is nobody. I see something that doesn't exist yet, and it's like, damn. I would say like, okay, to play devil's advocate for a second, like the something that Reggie had mentioned is that all like it seems like I don't know. I think I agree too. Like the core desire seems to be like the ability to provide and to be comfortable, but that's a sliding scale on like because you mentioned like, oh yeah, what you thought was 100K is more like a milli, what you thought was a milli is more like a billy, and it's like damn. And I don't know that same rhetoric of like the gap between the haves and the have-nots is getting steeper and steeper is low key like, ooh damn, watch out for that. But what you gonna say, Reggie?
No, I mean, to me, it's about like being true to yourself and not being afraid to go against the grain. Because for me, like I didn't have a particular individual, I guess, that stands out the most right now, but I think peace, nature, and a little bit of flexing. You know, like I have a nice car, I have, property that I enjoy that has made me like it honestly feels like the Garden of Eden. Like it literally has like blueberries and like grapes growing wild. I was like, I've never seen that shit before. And so to be able to like just walk up and just like pick that, be like, all right, there's my sustenance. Like the world is literally providing for me. Like this is so beautiful and amazing, right? Like so few people get that anymore. And I think going outside of cities is also a major trade-off that can be so liberating. Um, but I think beyond that, it's like my craft and also craftsmanship, generally speaking. Like if I like if I'm gonna have a suit or something, or like particularly like a tuxedo, like I want the best of the best. And don't get me wrong, some of that stuff is overpriced, but at the same time, like the price is the price and quality is quality. Um, but I also feel like in terms of like the inequality aspect and not wanting to like try to be the richest person in the world, like I really think that the way the economy is going to go is that we're going to escape capitalism to a point where there basically like is some kind of threshold that a bunch of people are going to reach. And you know what, I feel like it's kind of equalized to the Elon Musks and to the Mark Zuckerbergs. Like I feel like they're probably going to continue to strive and accumulate for some more years, but then after a while, they're going to kind of like chill. And then you're just going to see more and more and more people as their peers until eventually, like, I think we're going to live in a world with literally millions, if not billions of people who are essentially on par with that kind of lifestyle. Whatever amount of dollars of currency is required at that point is like kind of irrelevant. Like, but I'm actually thinking about this outside of a capitalist mindset. And don't get me wrong, like if they won't let that happen, then they won't be the ones who are at that point. But I think in general, we're going to see like, yeah, a lot of people at this level of what we would call, I don't know, saved or whatever, where that level of freedom is broadly attained, and then the rest will likely be comprised of many of the people who we would quote unquote think to look up to in this day and age. And that's kind of what drives me to not pay so much attention to comparisons and more so just have a vector of like, okay, based off of the inputs of impressions, it's like this is the general direction that I want to steer my ship, looking for the crew that'll, likely take me there. But again, just to come full circle, like you can't want for more people than you want for themselves. Like even the best people that the most career-oriented, like elite Ivy League level students, like I've started looking at some of my boys from Harvard. I'm like, yo, what the fuck are y'all doing? Like even Alex Hormozy, like I'm looking at his eyes closely on some of this posts with him and Layla, and I'm like, I'm working on my emotional intelligence, but also not wanting to read too much into shit, especially on social media. And I'm like, yo, like some of these people don't look happy, yo. And that's tough because at the same time, like while as great as they are, like they seem hell bent on finding that billion, and they're in their mid-30s and haven't gotten there yet, as great as they are. And there are people in their mid-30s who have gotten there. So if they're giving out talent, and I mean, sorry, if they're giving out advice, which again, like I would say in the same breath, like don't listen to what I'm saying like it's gospel. But if they're giving out advice, they're giving advice to get you to like where they're at slash where they've been. And in a way, like listening to that with too much fidelity almost precludes you from a steeper trajectory. So it's
Mm.
like that balance of like finding a way of like, okay, these are the components of the model that get me to 100 mil mid 30s. But if I really want 10 bill mid 30s, where do you get that? I don't know. Bill Gates just dropped his memoir. Ray Dalio has at least one book that's out there, right? But also from a mindset perspective, like, I don't know, bro. Like Solomon and David are low-key it for me right now. Like, those are the ones that to me exemplify the most in terms of abundance, grace, favor, achievement, flaws, right? It's like, well, what flaws? If you had to choose flaws, which ones do you want? I think Solomon and David flaws is not the worst ones to pick, right? And so I still survey, as many wisdom traditions as possible to be able to benefit and to eventually be able to contribute my own wisdom to the world. But it's like, like we got to get radical with this stuff. Like, there's not a lot of crowds that are worth sticking too close to, I find.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, and two things I guess like that really stood out to me about that is one, you can't like someone can't give you the recipe to a dish they've never made, first and foremost. So like choose who you're taking advice from wisely. And then second, this is kind of a tangent, but I was something interesting is like when you mentioned like not looking happy on social media, like Alex Mosey in particular, like I look at that and I think that the reason for that is because he set his like target at money is what it seems to be. And I feel like if there's a reason that there's not happiness there, it's because you would like what Marv said, like wonderful money is a wonderful servant, but not a good master. So if money is your master slash the if money is the goal behind your goal, then there's not going to be happiness waiting for you at the end because the number can always just go higher.
Real
But it
talk.
seemed like it seemed like your criticism of him is that he didn't like he's not doing it well enough.
I mean, I don't have any criticism of him. All I know is that from the partial perspective on
Yeah.
his life that I have on social media, I think one of the benefits of that is that, yes, you can try to connect the dots based off what people are putting out, but that's mostly just an internal reflection for you to add to your schema, not necessarily like the true
Mm,
value of their experience, especially if you've never met them,
bro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a quote in mind. Um, yeah, I really don't. Um,
That's right.
yeah, nah, just I think okay, actually, yeah, nah, I'm not even gonna force it. Like, this is not a part of my like functioning right now. Like, it's funny because like I've been doing more reading recently,
Mm,
and like, yeah, single solitary quotes like are not there for me. I definitely think they're powerful. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's something for me to reflect on.
mm. I guess do you have like a theme of like I guess like
Yeah,
recent
I mean, I
since
think a lot, like for me right now, it's like, you know, trust, perseverance. Um, yeah, like those are the main ones. I think I'm waiting to see more out of life, or I'm making more happen in life right now before I can be like, aha, like there's like a big shining lesson in the sky or something to take forward. Yeah, it's like a head down kind of season, but like, yeah, like there's just I don't see a lot of people doing it like me, and
Mm,
that's not necessarily a bad thing, although I remain, vigilant.
all right. Yeah. And I think that's a really nice place to end off.